Alright, welcome to another video Q&A. An excellent question came in from Socrates. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing that correctly. And here's the question. Dear Tutor Phil, and of course the question was a bit longer, but I pretty much distilled it into this. My problem is to know how to arrange paragraphs and getting deeper in critical writing. Okay, now let's take a look at the topic that Socrates was given. So, why are ethical principles important in social work research when working with vulnerable people? And right away, you can see that this is a why question. Now, a why question has reasons as answers to this question, right? So, if you ask me, oh, why is this so? You're really asking me, well, for what reason is this so? How would you use the power of 3 in this example? Well, the most intuitive and initial response from me is, why not use the power of 3 and say, well, look, ethical principles are important for 3 reasons. And this is my initial reaction to this question. However, if we look at the rest of the assignment, we'll see some more information that will help us structure this essay. And let's see. Now, your professor said, or Socrates' professor said, here are the assessment criteria. Okay, so now in this paper, number A, you should be able to identify main ethical principles relevant to social work. B, you should show your awareness of specific ethical requirements when undertaking research with vulnerable people. And C, you must be able to demonstrate understanding of the application of ethical principles on the practice of social work research, or in the practice of social work research. And D, finally, this paper should be well written with coherent argument and appropriate use of literature and APA referencing. So this is not really a part of the content. These are just D are really the criteria. Now A, B, and C, these parts A, B, and C give us terrific information that will help us structure this essay, because, let me show you something. Now this seems that, initially it seems that the question, there's only one question in this assignment. But, in reality, there are 3, and let me show you. Number 1, because you should be able to identify the main ethical principles, you're really asking a question, so what are the main ethical principles? And because there are multiple principles, we know that there's more than one. So my suggestion is, why not use the power of 3 and already decide just from this that you're going to focus on 3 of the most important principles relevant to social work. Okay, so in this way, part A is really a question, and the question is, this is the what question, right? So what are the main ethical principles relevant to social work? That's question 1. Now question 2 is in this little subsection B, right? Awareness of, right? You should show your awareness of specific ethical requirements when undertaking research with vulnerable people. So this is not necessarily a why part, the why question, but you can make it into a why part and answer that question, because it fits perfectly with the main question your professor is asking. Therefore, you could make it the why part, and this would be really the part where you say, oh, this is why these ethical principles are important. They're important because these people are vulnerable, and we must have these certain ethical requirements, blah, blah, blah. Now, in part C, you must demonstrate understanding of the application of ethical principles, right? Keyword. What is the keyword here? The keyword here is application. Another keyword, practice. So this is the third question that your professor is asking. Your professor is asking you also, what are some of the practical applications of these ethical principles? So you have 3 questions. You have the what question, the why question, and what is the practical application question. Okay, I hope this is clarifying a little bit for you, and let's go and see how this would work in the overall structure. Now, we already kind of decided, and of course you can have more than 3 principles, and I don't know your subject. Maybe you have 12 principles, maybe you have 21 principles. I don't know, it doesn't really matter. If you have 21 principles, then you will have 21 main sections. But more likely than not, you don't, and you probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My suggestion is to focus on 3, and it's a very powerful number. Why? Because look, you have now 3 main sections. In section 1, you will discuss, and please note, it's better to structure this way. To discuss your ethical principle 1 in part 1 in main section 1, ethical principle number 2 in section 2, and then obviously finally ethical principle 3 in section 3. You will not necessarily answer question 1 in part 1 or in section 1, question 2 in section 2, and question 3 in section 3. No, it's best to do it this way, and let me show you why. Because let's go back and let's take another look at your assignment. Because you have 3 main principles now, and again, you may have as many as you like, I don't care, but come up with at least 3. And if you stick with 3, I mean this is what I do. Even on graduate level, when I was working on my master's degree, I was writing my big papers, my 10,000, I don't know, 15,000 word papers with using the power of 3. Okay, now, again, look, under each principle, you could answer the question, so what is the principle? And then you could go to B and talk about why this principle is important. And then talk about C, what is the practical application of this principle? Okay? And this is the way it would work. So in main section 1, you would have subsection A, subsection B, and subsection C, in which A stands for what the principle is, B, why it is so important, and subsection C, what is the practical application of this principle. And when you're done with that in section 1, you just repeat the process in section 2 and in section 3. And when you're done with that, that's it. Your paper is finished. Okay. I hope that this was helpful. And of course, you were answering, how to paragraph and how to go deeper. Well, this is how you go deeper. All these questions really come down to structuring your paper. Because as you can see right now, I hope I answered your question about how to go deeper, because now you know how to fill up your paper with material. At least you have the beginning of it that I could show you in one video. And with regards to paragraphing, look, you could write 1 or 2 paragraphs in each of these little subsections. Let's say subsection A of each of these bigger sections could be either 1 or 2 paragraphs, and you could do the same with B or C. It doesn't really matter. Paragraphing is not critical. What is critical is that you know exactly what goes where, and as soon as you've identified, so this part, okay, so the what, I'm answering the what question here, I'm answering the why question here, I'm answering the practical application question here. Your paragraphing is going to be just intuitive. It doesn't matter. Just if you want, you can just write 1 paragraph per subsection. This way, you will end up with 9 subsections total, plus the thesis statement and plus the conclusion if you choose to write it again. And this way, you will have 10 or 11 paragraphs total in this paper.